Hi everyone, Phobos Gaming here. Today I'll be giving a full-length review of the game known as Killing Floor 2. This game is one of my personal favorites as I have always been a fan of wave-based survival shooters, like that of Call of Duty Zombies. However, this one is very unique, as it has classes, as you can see up here on my screen. And at the time it came out, it also had the highest rated gore system of any game available without modding. Now it probably still does even to this day. Almost every kill looked unique, from blade to gun. Bits and pieces of your foes fly off as you rip them to shreds. But you should watch out. Unlike Call of Duty and those other games, this game has more than one type of enemy that you'll be facing, from the weak and slow clot to the brutal and fast flesh pound. Each of these monsters have their own weaknesses and resistance, so learning about each one of them is a very important part of this game, as it can easily mean the difference between survival and becoming food for the Zeds. I'm going to tell you a bit about each of these classes without actually kind of ruining them for you. The Berserker is a melee specialist and tank. The Commando is a support style class that can also go lone wolf and survive even some of the most brutal conditions, as it has a vast amount of ammo and can also call out cloaked Zeds, which there are quite a few of them in more difficulties. The support, on the other hand, is rather interesting, as it can both clear Zeds with its shotguns, as it has very high penetration, and it can also supply your friends with ammo and armor. The Field Medic, on the other hand, is a heavy-duty support, and it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it can still hold its own. It buffs and heals all of your teammates that are shot with the medic darts, which can be extremely important in anything above suicidal. The Demolition, on the other hand, is probably the biggest Zed killer in game. This guy specializes in what you would think he would use, explosives, from the RPG to the Thumper, which is a grenade launcher, or even their HX-25 grenade pistol, which launches a cluster of small impact grenades that detonate on contact. The Firebug, on the other hand, is rather fun and one of my personal favorites. He uses flames to cause havoc and damage. While he doesn't deal a whole lot of damage on impact, he places a dot which does incredible damage over time. So the longer people stay on fire, the more damage you can do to them. The Gunslinger is probably one of my second favorites, as there are a couple that really tie in with him. He uses two weapons at the same time, which are pistols of varying kinds, from the dual 1858 revolvers to the 500 mag, which will really shred just about anything. I mean, it's freaking awesome. The Sharpshooter is very close to the Gunslinger, except rather than using pistols, this guy uses rifles and a crossbow. His very last weapon is a railgun, which fires a bullet at extremely high speeds and does massive damage. He is very good at killing Skrakes, but honestly he's rather lackluster. The Survivalist, which is honestly my least favorite class, is very helpful in certain situations, but in all reality he is no substitute for the real thing. The Survivalist specializes in the use of all weapons, but he uses them less efficiently than a class that is specially made to use that one weapon. Like using the Gunslinger's weapons, he would be mediocre compared to them. The SWAT is the last perk that we have active for us, and hopefully we'll get some more soon, and I will do reviews for them too. The SWAT is a Zed clearer with high fire and large ammo. He kind of works as a tank, but he isn't extremely fast. However, his weapons are able to make up for this shortcoming, as they can wipe out the weaker Zeds like the Clots, and if you use your flashbang, you can take out the Skrakes pretty quickly by just pouring all of your ammo into their head. Another rather interesting feature of this game is you get to customize your character. As you can see on my screen, I'm using the guy known as DJ Scully. I am currently wearing some of the more rare items, Horzine Security, which was given to us in an event not too long ago. And there are multiple characters that you can play with. I'll show you a couple real quick. Each of these I have customized to look interesting, except for this guy. I don't have anything for him yet. They look great. But each of these you can give different looks, different clothes, and you can even give them masks, hats, and other things. Even this little mind-blown deal, which is kind of funny, but I don't really like the look of. Over here, you get cosmetics for your weapons in-game, and this is also where you will find items that you've picked up through events or during your dailies. You can get things like the snake skin, which is for the AA-12, and it adds a camo to your weapon. There are 3 variations: battle scarred, field tested, and mint. And in that order, they get progressively better. These are not for actual real purposes, but they just look nice, so people use them. And there's another aspect of this game, crafting, which for PS4 is unfortunately slow, which you can use to make other items, and it takes 10 of each color. After you get a common cosmetic 10, you can make an uncommon, and then uncommon becomes rare, and rare becomes exquisite, and then exquisite becomes precious, which is the highest rating, like this armor here. That's about all I have to say for the classes and cosmetics. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different game modes that you'll run into. You have survival, which is your standard survival wave game that can go up to 10 rounds, or 7, or 4. At the end of each of these, you will have a boss to fight. The bosses alternate currently between a man that has a rocket launcher for an arm, known as the Patriarch, which I won't tell you anything about his mechanics, because that would also ruin the game. But there's another one known as Dr. Hans Volter, who is a Nazi scientist, and he's pretty interesting as well. You'll get to find out about those if you ever play the game, as they are both really, really interesting, in my opinion. There are 4 different difficulties. Normal, which is for rank players 0 to 5. It has the easiest Zeds to deal with, and not the most mechanics. Hard, you have slightly different Zeds, like the Gorefiend, but you won't encounter elite crawlers or elite alpha clots yet. Suicidal, where you will have all variations: the elite crawler, who will explode if you shoot him in anywhere but the head, or the elite clot, who will enrage his little brothers near him, to even the Gorefiend, which is probably one of the more irritating Zeds. Hell on Earth is, well, hell on Earth. There is very few players that can actually play this one successfully, as it is incredibly difficult and suggestive for players at level 25. These have all the Zeds, and they move much faster, and they use all of their attacks. There are also very few pickups, which means you'll be running low on ammo unless you coordinate a lot. That's all you have for this one right now, but there are also several maps, like Biotech Labs, Black Forest, Burning Paris, The Descent, which is a small place that you go further down into Volter's Manor, and you discover what he's been doing under his house, which can be quite gruesome. To even Newt, which is a rather interesting deal. It's about a Texas embassy, as if Texas had seceded from the United States. And it's really well made. It was actually made by one of the players rather than the developers. To the most recently added Tragic Kingdom, which was part of the sideshow event that happened last week, where all of the Zeds were dressed up as freak show clowns, which was very interesting. Now, each of the player-made maps are made to go through these processes that the developers look for it. And when these processes are over, they will add these to the main game, assuming they were popular enough. If not, then they don't make the cut, but players on PC can still play them. The other game mode, which is currently active outside of weekly, which will only be active for shortly after Sideshow, is versus survival, where it is 4 waves and at normal difficulty. Now don't be fooled, this is not easy and is really not suggested for anybody under the level of 25. As the players on the other team, there are 6 of them as well, and they will play as the Zeds, and there will be AI Zeds with them. At the very end, one player takes control of the bosses while the other 5 play as Zeds, and they spawn in and try to tear you apart. Now, this can be very hazardous because players are a lot harder to deal with than their AI counterparts. So this is not for the faint of heart and is more for those who are extremely competitive and want to put their skills to the test. Anyway, I do hope you found this video to be very helpful. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will try to do another review that goes into the Berserker, the Commando, Support, Field Medic, Demolitionist, Firebug, Gunslinger, Sharpshooter, Survivalist, and SWAT at some point.